What's poppin'? What's poppin'? Welcome, welcome, peoples.
Crack-a-lackin'.
Welcome to Sunday night service.
Brought to you by the African American Community Fund. The African American Community Fund, established in 2020 at the foundation of Appalachian, Ohio, supports Black-led and Black-serving organizations throughout the 32 counties of Appalachian, Ohio, to elevate the quality of life and address disparities in African American communities. The African American Community Fund, www.appalachianohio.org/AACF, or you can reach them at 740-753-1111. Check them out, please.
You said www. Which is going to send somebody to that other website that's going to have all kind of dirty pictures on it, man. You got to get all the W's in, man. You said www.
Oh, I ain't said it three W's?
You got to say www. This is a good question. Why haven't we found a better way to do websites now? But you know what I think? I don't think you're supposed to say the W's anymore.
Oh, you ain't supposed to say that?
No, you're supposed to just say...
Well, that's what it say on here.
Right. I know. You're supposed to just say jeffstanford.com. You know what I'm saying? Like, go to appalachian.com or whatever it is, right, you know. Well, so, what's popping, y'all? What's popping, Rashad? Good to see you. Elder Carter.
What's happening? Go
on ahead and get it out your system. Go on ahead, people. Get it out your system. Jeff and I spent the afternoon watching the game at the Second Baptist tailgate party, and I had a good time. Might as well just throw it out there. We took our L. The Steelers, you know, didn't prevail. The Browns did just enough to get out. We did way too much to not do nothing.
Well, Pastor Todd, I'd like to thank you for interviewing me as the head of the Cleveland Browns fans club. You know, we done a good job. We came out.
Did a good job.
We came out running. You know, we came out on fire. You know, we slowed down. You know, our young rookie quarterback, he settled in. He done what he had to do. He done just enough. Sometimes you don't need El Shaddai. Sometimes you need a just enough quarterback. You know what I mean? You don't need a more than enough God.
You can be his mic now. You don't need a more than enough God. Yeah, you can have that God.
Sometimes, you know, but we done good. You know what I mean? At the last couple plays, he settled in, he threw some balls, and he made it, you know, so, you know, we're good now. We're good. You know, matter of fact, he led us on a trajectory to the Super Bowl.
Okay, so, all right. Now, you're definitely overdoing it now. Ain't to have them guys be in their post-game shows. Right. Yeah, we don't need to hear that. Now, let me be clear here. Both offenses were pretty terrible, to be honest. And when I say offenses, I mean the schemes.
Yeah.
The plays that were called. Stefanski is not great. Matt Canada is terrible. And I would not take away. I would not take away from the good job. I'm not that type of guy. I wouldn't take away from the good job the Browns did. However, at the beginning of the game, they had a good drive, went down the field and scored. Okay? They did not have another good drive, basically, until the end of the game where they actually let them run some good plays.
Right.
And neither of those quarterbacks for the bulk of the game were given any that I could see good, like slot receiver, you know, tight end, you know, any of that stuff, like making use. Njoku, what's his name? Dropped like 4 or 5 balls. Then he caught a few at the end.
But I think for the last, probably the second and third quarter, they had more loss of yards.
They had more loss. Well, that's how we were at the beginning of the game. I mean, the whole first half was terrible. So, I mean, it was a back and forth game. And sometimes, here's the funny thing about these kind of games, Jeff, because 13-10 is not a typical NFL game anymore.
Right.
And so sometimes we like to call it a defensive struggle, right?
Right.
I'm not going to acknowledge Sister Janice. You know, we don't pretend that she's not here. No, but
Janice, next time you have second, make sure you say, remember you didn't acknowledge me?
Right. Never mind. I love you, Sister Janice, no matter what you say.
You know how I like to call.
I will be calling you up to sing again. No, but in all seriousness, it feels like to me that sometimes we don't know the difference between a defensive struggle and just a bad game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes a poorly... Someone kick Janice out the chat. Sometimes a poorly schemed or poorly strategized game can result in what looks like a defensive struggle, but what it really were offenses that they wouldn't have scored against the cream puff. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely not.
They wouldn't have scored against the cream puff. So,
yeah, but see, I like Marlon's comment. He said the last drive, the Steelers didn't even run the ball.
No.
And the run was working for you the whole game.
It's like Stefanski came over to our sideline and started running plays.
Like, what are you
Who
doing?
is that? Who is that running back y'all got, man?
Jalen Warren.
Dude is a beast.
He's a beast, man. I said
he stiff-armed our whole team in one play.
Man, he stiff-armed your whole team, ran up in the stands.
I got stiff-armed. I wasn't even at the game.
Listen, he stiff-armed the whole Browns team, ran up in the stands, stiff-armed some fans, went to the grave of Jim Brown, stiff-armed the gravestone, and then came back. And then Matt Canada was like, we're not going to run you no more.
Right. Enough of that stiff arm. You don't like that.
He was on that Derrick Henry joint. You know what I mean? But, hey, this is Brown Steelers football. It's hard-nosed. The more I think about it, the more it was best that the Browns did win for the sake of our church. Because I think it's better to have a bitter pastor than an entirely upset church when I'm trying to make budget by the end of the month. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we don't need these problems. We don't need these problems at all. But it was a good game. And, of course, we love the fellowship. Second Baptist, shout out to Second Baptist. They did a tailgate fellowship fundraiser, finishing off our pavilion that we recently cut the ribbon on. And the whole point of that was to finish the furnishings and the fixtures. Shout out to Sister Rose Jones and the Ramey family. Of course, this is in honor of Mr. Tim Ramey, brother Tim Ramey, Major Tim Ramey, who passed from us last year. So it was a great thing. But I want to shift gears a little bit at the top of the show, Pastor Jeff.
We ain't going nowhere.
Except to the bank to pay our allegations
we
off.
bad boys for life.
Listen, what is up with Diddy, man?
Diddy.
He's the next... Is he the next victim or is he the next perpetrator that we're about to find out about?
He is on his way to R. Kelly status.
He's on his way to R. Kelly. I mean, rumors and rumblings are all around. For those that didn't see the news, our man Sean Puffy Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Love. Didn't he call himself Love for a while? He changed his name.
No, I ain't heard of Love one.
Yeah, he just changed his name to Love for a while. Bad boy for life.
He's a cornball.
One of his former... Now, was this a person he was in a relationship with or just somebody? So Cassidy
he was in a relationship.
is his name. And she's accusing him of assault, all types
rape,
of abuse.
Everything. Abuse.
And
beating her.
Within about 45 minutes of putting it on Instagram, they had a settlement announced.
I think it was 100 and it was a tremendous, I think it was like 6 figure. It was a huge amount.
Well, she was originally asking for $30 million, and then I heard the last I seen he settled for 100.
100 million? 100 million?
No, I'm sorry.
100,000?
No, I'm right. 100 million.
Yeah, it was. That's what my wife said. It was 100 million.
Yeah, 100 million. Yeah.
No, that couldn't have been.
It started out 30 million, and he settled for 100 million. Now
that can't be right.
Now they're saying a disclosed amount. I'm telling you, right, man.
That's what my wife said. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to tell you, 100 mil.
That is crazy.
I gotta look this up.
It's crazy. It is crazy. But
9 figures.
Yes, I told you, man.
Yeah, 100 mil, bro.
100 mil.
Okay, so let's say
the fact that you got 100 million is
so the fact that you got 100 million, the fact that she got now apparently 100 million, and whoever her lawyer is, God bless him, because he's set for life. But I'm just like this. First of all, he was about to buy NBC. That's why all this happened. Okay, we know that the reason this happened is because he was a black man with too much power. He was about to buy a major network.
That's what happens when the director's all
up in the videos. Suge Knight tried to warn you.
You know Puff gonna be in them videos.
You know Puff was gonna be in it. You know, but so that's
the thing. I mean, if you go back, because he just gave everybody their rights to their music, right?
Kind of, sorta.
He didn't. Yeah, he gave some access, I guess you could say.
Kind of, sorta.
I mean, but he's doing more. And I'm just wondering, was this leading up? Is he trying to, escape some stuff?
The thing with that is that a lot of he was trying to give them back, but a lot of the deals were so bad, some of the artists turned it down.
Wow.
Because it was that bad of a deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, if he did this, he deserves it. There are people who said, why didn't she file criminal charges? Now, I don't know if there's a statute of limitations situation.
It was almost up.
Or there are people who don't want to go through the circus long term, because honestly, the money's going to get paid and it's going to fall off the radar quick. Whereas if it goes to trial,
it's definitely a
it was
hush money.
Right.
Can't say
it's a hush money thing. But here's the thing about that, because we've been over this conversation. His representative put out a statement to say we should all know by now. Basically, this is the paraphrase. We should know by now that in the year 2023, that a settlement is not an admission of guilt. That's what he said. He said, especially in the year 2023, a settlement is not an admission of guilt. But I guess I still can't, because I've never been in that position and don't know. I still can't fathom, especially someone with power, and access to high-powered lawyers and all that, settling for such large amounts and so quickly if there were not at least either an admission of guilt or at the very least a whole lot of embarrassing details that he don't want people to know about.
Hey,
one or the other, either guilt outright or a whole lot of embarrassing.
I'm gonna tell you right now, for $100 million, I'd have been like,
see,
you know, Puff the Magic Dragon. I don't know who you're talking about. Are you talking about?
So here's a couple of sick things that people would say, and this is a sick. I was trying to talk past it, but here you go. Here's a couple of the sick things that people would say. Number one, you're gonna have people on the R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson apologetics tour. It's going to be what I said earlier. It's attack on a black man. Why she takes so long. Blame the victim. Just that whole thing. Even sicker. I wish he would do something like that to me. There's people that will have that opinion that I would have been with him. Hey, and to an extent, there's some chicks out there getting mistreated for no money. I mean, let's just be real out here. There are people out here getting mistreated, abused, and everything for $0 right here in Warren.
For some Red Lobster.
For some Mickey D's.
Some hot heads.
For some ramen noodles.
Wow.
And it's a sad reality.
You got to take it to Bob Evans yesterday.
It's a sad reality that there are people who are probably going through some of the same, and let's be clear, absolutely wrong treatment and behavior, but they look at her as the winner, even just for having been with him before there's even a settlement. Just the lifestyle, whatever could possibly come from being with him. And then people who would basically say, for that kind of money, you can abuse me, basically.
Sit your $5 butt down before I make change.
But what do we do with that? How do we wrestle with the fact that, and I hate to get deep in our intro, but maybe we can get 90 seconds to it. How do you deal with the fact that there are black people who have gained power, notoriety, status, wealth, all of that, but that now it means they are subject to the same thing, even sometimes more so that anybody else would? That means, lawsuits, accusations, your dirty laundry being, and by the way, rightfully so. I am not a Team Puff guy in this situation. Unfortunately, it's hard to believe that, to me, that these are just totally false allegations. But how do we wrestle with the fact of black people have power? We're proud of them for being these moguls, but there is also a dark side to it. Whether it's their fault.
I don't know very many people who got that much money that don't got some type of dark side. I'm just saying and I can guarantee right now, Jay-Z is next.
You think Jay-Z is next? I thought he already went through some accusations.
Dame Dash is coming for Jay-Z.
Jay-Z already got attacked by Beyonce's sister. He already got beat up in that elevator. So
Dame is coming for him.
But I mean, if you think about it, if you think back, stuff has been coming out little by little
for a while
about Puffy for a little over a year.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Who is that did the video and nobody believed her and they called her a hater? Jaguar Wright. She was like the R&B singer, had like one song.
Okay.
And she did like basically a low-key podcast that's like,
well, everybody
worse
been coming
than this
out
one.
On this
She should be paying us to do her podcast. It was terrible. But she was making some allegations and she was saying, y'all don't know the real Puff, and now she's like, told y'all.
Right.
I mean, every one of his groups, all of them coming out on it.
All of them coming out.
All of them is ain't none of them making.
But then he just did that tour with all his former artists and stuff. He just did that last show or whatever it was. But it's gonna come out, man. But I mean, again, power has the potential to corrupt, and I think that that's one of the things we have to be careful as a people, black people, poor folk, religious folk, we always say, if I got there, I would treat it like this, when you don't really know. And maybe, you get there because of what you're willing to do and how you act. And that's why that the limelight's not for me. I keep saying we got to do a show called The Problem with Prominence. Got to do a show.
I mean,
called The Problem with Prominence. We'll do it next week.
When people get to your status of Second Baptist, you know what I mean?
They're going to get a 3-figure settlement.
He said 3-figure.
They're going to be announced in the paper.
It'll be $120.
Pastor Johnson reaches a 3-figure settlement that includes the Texas Roadhouse gift card he just got at this tailgate party.
I'll give you some of these mics with some duct tape
on them. We got some old offering baskets in the back. You can have those. Hey, y'all, but it's all good. We're already well into it. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for the meme of the week.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
We thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
These are all jokes. We are just playing.
All right, so we got another picture meme of the week. I don't think I'll let Jeff see this one today, but this is a what would Jesus do? All right, pop it up, Mike. Me losing at Monopoly. What would Jesus do? I love it. I love it. I love it. And that is an accurate depiction. Listen, that is an accurate depiction of the end of every Monopoly game that has ever existed.
Some of them just don't end. Some of them you just gotta
me
stop.
and the brothers, we almost filed divorce papers on each other when we were playing Monopoly back in the day. We almost what do you call it? What do you call it when you disconnect or you emancipate?
Yeah,
we almost emancipated ourselves from each other. What's up, Pastor Osborne? We are talking about the scourge of the Monopoly game. And this is why, by the way,
right,
especially our church. Y'all see how we acted at the tailgate today. I told Pastor Jeff, I was leaning over, I told Pastor Jeff, when y'all started losing, I said, this is about to turn real ugly. If y'all lose, it's going to be some tables flipped up in this piece. I ain't getting no ties
People
next
was
week.
Picking sides.
Oh, yeah, man.
In a hurry.
Uh-oh, here go Mo. I wouldn't do that for Monopoly. But if you put down a draw 4 in Uno, that's a different story. Scott is on it. He said that's not Monopoly. That's after back-to-back draw 4s.
Right. You hate it.
You playing Uno with house rules. I mean, that's the problem, because I don't care how saved, sanctified, and Holy Ghost filled you claim to be. You start losing a contentious board game or a card game.
That gets heated.
Do y'all know that the rules say ain't no money supposed to go up under the free parking?
Oh, there's a whole lot of rules. But listen,
I didn't know that. I always thought that was the rule.
We don't play any of the real rules. We play Blackopoly.
You land on that free parking, you be set.
We play Negropoly. We play we play our own version. We play our own version of every game. It's house rules. Because, I think Uno said that we're not supposed to be stacking all them cards like that.
What you mean stacking?
All them draw 4s and stuff. They're saying like all them stack reversals. They put out a statement on Twitter.
The new one is garbage because you can write on there what you want to write.
Yeah, you can just make up stuff. You be like, go outside and run around the house and come back. Black people don't know the real rules.
I was playing with my son. I was like, what is this?
Listen.
You wrote this. He's like, you supposed to. No, you're not.
Yes, you write what you want on it.
What is this? It was like, give me all your good cards.
Right. Give me all your reds and pick your nose. Especially if kids write it. Yeah, black people don't know the real rules. And by the way, this is a larger conversation because black people don't know the real rules to anything. And I could write a book about our adversarial relationship with rules.
Oh, we hate them.
Maybe it's a psychic problem, because rules never work for us, and the rules are always turned against us. So we don't know the rules, or we make up the rules, and we fight over the rules.
We don't know the rules, and when we put something together, it's always something left.
Oh yeah.
You got every black person got a drawer with some extra screws in it. My wife be like, "What's that?" Oh, we ain't need those.
No, Jeff has that drawer.
We need those.
Jeff has gotten so bad at putting stuff together. Hey, I'm about to tell a story. Jeff has gotten so bad putting stuff together that, first of all, let me start at the top of the story. First of all, this Negro tricked me into coming to his house. He tricked me into coming. He's like, "Hey, man, you want to see my house?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll see your house." And he was like, "Yeah, I want to put some stuff together." We got there. Well, listen, no, we got there. And he was like, "Yeah, man, come out to the garage." I'm like, "What is this?"
He set you
It's
up.
a whole dresser.
He set you up.
It's a whole dresser in a box. And I said, so I tried to play it off. I said, "Oh, man, I ain't got my tools, man. They're at the office." He's like, "Well, I got my tools. I got the drill. I got everything." And Jeff is so bad at putting stuff together that today, when we got there the other night, everything was already broke. The dresser was broke. The couch was broke. Everything was... I said, "Jeff, this is the worst."
Woo! Hey,
Oh, goodness.
Hey, Mike, we opened up the box, man.
The whole thing fell apart in the box. It's like, what is happening?
Hey, they told me, listen, it's all put together. All you got to do is screw the thing, to pull the drawers out.
Right.
We opened the whole back.
The whole thing fell off,
It was
man.
a hole in the drawer.
It was comedy.
I said, "What?"
And I love putting stuff together. That's why he took advantage of me. Jeff and my buddy Ted, they always take advantage of me liking to put stuff together. He come over, man.
Wait a minute.
Ted called me like, "Come over, man." I came in. It was like 3 cribs in the house.
but who moved you?
You moved.
We
me.
moved this whole house.
You moved my whole house.
We moved the whole house. You know what he gave us?
Across the street, some pizza.
He gave us pizza.
That's a fair.
$10 an hour.
That's a fair exchange. And this is pre-inflation. This was pre-inflation. We had to take that whole safe out. My brother wanted the safe, the gun safe. I mean, that was terrible. Oh man, but yeah, that's meme of the week. Send your memes to religiouslyincorrectpodcast@gmail.com if you want to send us a meme you think is funny. We kind of got some stacked up that we're gonna be using over the next few weeks. But I'm telling y'all, Monopoly is not for the Saints. Monopoly is not for the Saints. Who said we should have a new game called Ebanopoly? Somebody.
I said pizza and Kool-Aid.
He said pizza and Kool-Aid. It's a fair exchange for moving my whole house. There we go. I have the black version. No, go back. Carletta said I have the black version of Monopoly called Ebanopoly. Wait a minute.
Man,
What are you buying here?
I need that.
What are you buying here?
We need that. The Heights.
You buying the Heights?
Hey, if you're rich, you stay in Jamestown.
You buy Jamestown Village?
They still call it Jamestown.
Mediterranean and Baltic are the Kimmel Brooks. Ebanopoly. That must be hilarious. All right, y'all. Religiously Incorrect is brought to you by the Phillips Family Care of Businesses. Phillips Care Lawn Services have been in business for over a decade. Lawn starting at $30. Want to give them a shout out. We actually hired Phillips Care as our contractor to do some clearing at the church before we built our pavilion. Did a phenomenal job. So shout out to Fernando. Give him a call at 330-219-7916. What are the game pieces? Lashes and wigs. Back to these ads. Check out Phillips Care Cleaning Service, residential and commercial. They do carpet cleaning, floor cleaning, upholstery, move in, move out, just about anything you can think of that needs to be done around your house. Unless you're like Jeff and have a pastor friend you can call over to do free labor, you call Phillips Care. Check them out on Facebook at Phillips Care LLC. And also,
we're brought to you by Action. The Alliance for Congregational Transformation, influencing our neighborhoods. Listen, y'all, communities flourish not just with diversity, but with a conscious effort to ensure equality in opportunity and voice. Listen, if you are not part of Action yet and you are here in Trumbull County, please meet me here at the Action office tomorrow at, I think it's 5:30.
Where are we meeting at?
Here.
at Focus,
Yeah,
Action Office in
Focus
Warren.
Building. Action Office in Warren. What's the address here?
2051 Niles Road, Southeast.
2051 Niles Road, Southeast.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, y'all. Pierre said red and white.
It's not red and white.
You could buy all 4 red and whites in the city. If you buy all 4 red and whites, you got to roll again and get 10.
First of all, if you go to
Mariah says it's at 6 o'clock. Your time was
6
wrong.
o'clock. Thank you, Mariah.
Jeff said 5:30 because he know all the black people are going to be late. That's why he said 5:30.
Exactly. Trying to help y'all
We're trying to
out.
help y'all out. Hey, our show tonight is entitled "Man Up."
Man up.
Man up. And I think this is a fitting show because this show, this episode, since we talked about the Browns and Steelers, we talked about Diddy, we talked about Blackopoly, and now we're talking about men because today we had a tailgate and it brought the men out.
It did.
It brought the brothers out. That means that after church, we all watched the game on big screens and had a good time, had the food and all. It was a fundraiser. But that was one of those things that brings the men out. But what we want to talk about tonight, and we want you to like, share, tag somebody. Matter of fact, I want to see some tags go up. If you got a brother or sister that you want to watch this wonderful, wonderful, entertaining podcast, make sure you tag somebody. I want to see some tags go up in the comments. I want to see you tagging somebody, sharing this on your pages. We're talking about how can we engage men, why the church struggles to attract men,
Right.
what's right and what works, and what's really wrong and doesn't work.
Right.
And I want to start off with the nature of the church, particularly the African American church, the black church, where there's this strange historical dichotomy, not to get deep, but just to set a foundation, where the church was historically male dominated in leadership, but female dominated in its work, service, financial support, and how that has perpetuated over decades and decades and decades. And we're still in that reality where there are still barriers to female leadership or female influence, authority, even though it's often sort of seen unofficially.
Right.
But males have dominated the church from a leadership perspective, but often like a small cluster of leaders and a small group. But the pews are still mostly filled with sisters. And why that is, what is it? And we want to hear from our men who are watching. And I want you to tag a man. And I want to see some tags go up in the comments to talk about why that is, what that has perpetuated, and what we can do to sort of have real conversations. And by the way, from both sides, I think I'm going to do some challenges, not just to say what the church does wrong, but also some things that men need to do as well.
Absolutely.
So give me your take on the disparity, if you will, between gender in the church, particularly in the African American church.
I think you're right. I think, I read a book. I don't know if you ever read it.
I don't read.
Pastor Osborne actually hit me to this book, I think a long time ago,
Okay.
called Adam, Where Are You?
Adam, where are you?
Adam,
Okay.
Where Are You? And I think, that's one of the questions that I think every pastor, every leader is asking that question. Adam, where are you? And it's I don't know if we definitely won't find the answer tonight on Religiously Incorrect.
We might find Adam. He might peek out the window or something by the time we're done.
But the truth of the matter is, many times we just, we think of church as an emotional thing. A lot of brothers do think of church as emotional. They think of it as, they look at it as a woman-dominated thing. This is,
Right.
this is
for the women.
sisters. You know what I mean?
Right.
You go ahead. I'm gonna stay home, watch the football game. I pay the bills. I work all week. This ain't what I'm. Half of them, don't even believe.
Okay.
So it's just it's and how do we get them to that? I think it takes some meaningful.
Dialogue and conversation.
We used to do, and I think we talked about it last week.
We got to bring it back.
The wing and a prayer.
We got to bring
wing
it back.
and a word.
Wing and a word.
You take brothers out to Quaker Steak. I mean,
we used to. Quaker State fell off a little bit, but
Yeah, well.
they were hot. BW3.
BW3s now. Yeah, Quaker Steak. You got to take Todd's credit card.
You need you need Diddy's settlement to buy Quaker State.
Hey, that'd be harder than mud. But yeah, I mean, you get them out there and they open up, man. It just, because, we watch them football. We got this rah-rah going on. You know what I mean? And you just slip a couple.
Slip a little thing. Next thing you know, you crying on your barbecue sauce.
Right. We done forgot about the football game.
Right.
And everything.
But let me hit it on that emotional thing. Because it's often said that women are emotional creatures and that men tend to be more, I don't want to say conscious as if women are not, but like thinking, logical, and more like workmen, like working, functional type. So it's almost like emotional versus functional in a little bit of a way. And that's why a lot of men show their love through what they can buy or do for the people in their lives, whether it's their spouse, girlfriend, their children, the people they love. Hey, I work hard. I give this to you. I provide for you. I protect you. Can't nobody hurt you. But I might not necessarily be the lovey-dovey Hallmark card type person. And that's true for a lot of men. Now, culture has shifted, and we all as men, for lack of a better term, are more in touch with our feelings. I don't like to use that word feminine side and masculine side and stuff like that. And maybe that's the old school in me, how they say everybody still has a feminine side and women's have. I won't say all that. I'll just say that we are more conscious of our feelings, and we live in a culture that allows us, at least more than before, but probably still not nearly enough, to express our feelings. But we're still often not as emotional beings. And because even if we live in a culture that is more emotional, we have not normalized ourselves to expressing our emotions yet. I think that's going to take a generation or two, like where our children will really be. We're like in between. A lot of us had fathers and grandfathers that were just a gruff working man, taking care of business, whether they were holy or not holy or whatever. Like they weren't all, and all that, unless they got drunk or something. You know what I mean? Now you get some of these older cats that get drunk, then they start telling all they feelings. I love you, man. I'm so proud of you. Then they sober up and be like, what's up? But you can't take that aspect away. And the fact is, the church is a highly emotional place. And let's just be honest. We preachers, worship leaders, we make it that way.
Absolutely.
And we embrace that. And honestly, even though it can be off-putting, I don't think most of our people would want to be in a non-emotional church. As much as they say, don't preach and hoop and holler and da-da-da-da, I don't need all that. At the end of the day, I don't think as many people, including men, would want to be around if it was just totally like dry and cerebral all the time.
Absolutely.
But that emotionalism, Pastor Jeff, comes off as feminine.
It does. It really does.
It is seen as feminine for a long, for a lot of men.
I think a lot of times it has to do with who your leader is, what pastor you have.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got saved and start going to Union Baptist, that's when John Maiden was there, Pastor Maiden. Pastor Maiden was very male. He was, he was very stern. He had that look. He was that old Baptist preacher that just, you know what I mean?
Right.
He's like, man, this guy don't smile ever.
Smiling is unholy, Doc.
I'm like, Jesus,
Right.
But I mean, I think that we've gotten away from that, those type of preachers. I don't know very many anymore like that.
Well, did that attract men though?
I think the church was at least at that point
had respect.
It was
men came and respected that. I feel it. Well, I mean, I agree with that. I think that it does matter how and what is portrayed from the front.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't think men, and I can speak for myself as a man, since I happen to be one, I'm not necessarily looking for sternness and straightforwardness as much as I'm looking for relatability. And I think that a lot of pastors, whether they are stern or more emotional style and friendly in personality, whatever, is that we still have a large group of pastors who are not relatable at a base level of manhood. And when I say manhood, like what we did today, can I get up and make a little comment about the game or talk about life or what it means to be a man? And do they just see in me, not even when I'm trying to intentionally address men, but when I'm just being and talking about life. Right. And some of us like go overboard to be like, all right, men, I'm talking to you now. Right. Instead of just being yourself and yourself just being relatable to that average guy out there. And a lot of us put on that persona, and we're going to get to this in a second because I want to jump into leadership just yet. Scott made a great comment. I want to highlight it later, but sometimes our persona in the pulpit and the image of dignity and reverence and all of those things that we feel pressured actually detaches us from the men we want to reach because they don't get to see us being what, lack of a better word, normal.
Right.
You know,
one of the things I loved, even when I went to New Jerusalem, one of the things Pastor Moore would always say was more is caught than taught. And I think a lot of the men see and they look at how we handle, how we treat our wives and our children, even in the church setting, even as we're preaching and even as we're coming in and how we take care of them. And I think that's a very big attraction to young men and families.
Right.
Of that aspect. How do they see you treating your wife? How do they see you treating your kids?
Right.
Because truth be told, if your son knows you, or if the congregation knows you as pastor, but your son don't know you as daddy,
right.
What good have you done?
Right. And my pops used to say, people know you. My dad used to say this all the time. People out there know you. If you think they don't know you, sooner or later, they will show you that they know you.
Absolutely.
So if you're trying to play both sides, and Lord help me in the age we live in now where people it's like the age of exposure, the age of blasting folk, and putting people on blast and screenshots and everything else. But even before this season that we live in now, sooner or later, you're going to step to the wrong person, especially a man, and trying to put on that super churchy, super holy, especially as it is often the case, you got a lot of sisters, young and old, who are celebrating and really pumping up the image of the pastor. Other dudes look at that like, nah, man, I know what you really. I can see. I know an abuser when I see one.
Right.
I know a deadbeat when I see one. I know. My old grandfather said to me one time, I know a shyster when I see one. He's like, I came to church. I looked up there and I saw a shyster. He said, I saw a pimp, and I walked back out. Wow. He's like, I know that language. And funny thing is, these cats that come out of the streets, matter of fact, I will go a step further and say, that's why if you are actually desiring to do real ministry and be real balanced, you need some cats that's been out there and know what out there looks like, because they will keep it 100 with you. And they'll be like, nah, brother, I can see through you. Matter of fact, they'll help you see through some people that come into your church trying to portray to be themselves to be something. And they'll be the first ones to warn you and ain't even all that saved. Because they know street, and they'll be like, "Oh no, that dude that just joined your church, he talking a good game, man." They don't have to know them to know them,
right?
So I think that it's emotionalism, like you said, but that kind of brings me to my next part that I think is a big part, is that males are naturally skeptical.
Absolutely,
naturally skeptical of faith and belief, the abstract ideas of faith and belief. Because, the whole part of Christianity is that another man died for you.
Right.
Sacrificed his life for you. And you can't have nothing in life without this other man doing this for you. And then that translates to the ministry and the men in the ministry, usually men at the head of the ministry, that this man is leading you. And there's skepticism about their life. Are they real or not? Because they've heard so many stories and seen so many realities. And then secondly, the fact that they're often put it this way, they're often asked to believe so much so quick.
Right.
They're often asked to believe so much so quick that a female might more quickly dive into the belief, and again, the emotional side, because it almost always starts out as that emotional side. But a male is like, I just want to sit back and listen.
Right.
I want to listen, like you said, to the character and the spirit of the person, the preacher, the church, the people around me, but also what are you teaching and what truth, what principles, what values. They pay attention when you talk about money more than anything.
Oh my God,
absolutely. They pay attention when it sounds like the pastor is celebrating himself and certain people all the time and constantly like, y'all talking about, that's something you always hear from men. They're talking about the pastor more than God. That's the number one thing you will hear. I walked to church, man. They talked about God for 3 minutes, talked about the pastor for an hour. You know what I mean? Or men would say stuff like, man, nobody stood up and clapped. Nobody was doing nothing. But as soon as the pastor walked in, everybody stopped the service and stand up in reverence to all this.
They hate that kind of stuff.
They hate that kind of stuff. So they have a natural skepticism in the atmosphere of church, which is often built on quick faith. Let's be honest. We're preaching a sermon, and if somebody walks in our door for the first time, we are really hoping that person who walked in the door for the first time gets saved or joins the church.
Absolutely.
That first time. We do not have like some 6-week buffer period or some 2-month. We really do want every new face we see. And the men that walk in the church know that. Mm-hmm. They know it. They know, especially if it's a smaller church. And they're the only new guy there.
To add to that, Pastor Todd, one of the things a lot of times, especially nowadays, you will have the woman and the daughters or the kids join and the father won't.
Not the husband.
He'll wait. Like the whole family don't join together anymore. I don't know if that's everywhere, and I know I have a lot of pastors out here, if that's true, ring with y'all. But here's my question. Because particularly for even you and Mike, both here, both of y'all had strong fathers.
Oh, turn the corner, Pastor Jeff. Turn the corner.
Both of y'all had strong fathers, raised you up in church, went to church, prayed at night, things of that nature, And so how many brothers do you have?
I have 5 brothers.
How many brothers do you have?
One.
One. Is your brother in church?
No, he's not.
Your brother, all 5 of you?
All 5 of my brothers are in church.
All 5 of you. I have probably...
And they're not like super saved ministers, none. They're just in church.
Right. I put it like this. I probably got 10 brothers. 10 brothers.
That he knows about.
And ain't none of them in church. Nobody. Because my father just didn't raise us up like that.
Didn't raise us up.
He just
didn't show that strong example.
He could care less.
And the funny thing is, now my father was a pastor.
Right.
So, but he was, he is a pastor. He's not was. What is a pastor? Pastor George Johnson Sr., love your dad. But he's such a blue collar kind of dude. Right. Dad, just straight up. He just does not fit in with the preacher. He don't fit in with me, quite frankly. I mean, he'd be like, all right, that's too much, son. Sit down. You know what I mean? But we're a little different people.
Hey, I brought my Cadillac. I just brought a Cadillac. Like, I drove to church. Hey, Pastor George was like, hey, why your wife ain't driving that car?
Why your wife ain't driving that car?
You drive the old car. No, I paid for this new car. That's
no. Pastor George said the wife drives a nice car, which is why I drive the Traverse once every 2 months.
Hey, I was so sad.
Right.
Bust your bubble, huh?
Man, Jeff was stopping at the stop sign down the street like, all right, let's switch seats real quick before we come into the parking lot. I don't want Pastor to see us. But as soon as we get around the corner, I'm taking my car back. No, but they operated, what I wanted to say was, with a sense of duty.
Right.
They raised us, and I think there were a lot of those old school fathers, even if they weren't the super holy roller fathers, even if they were just getting up to go to church because it was the right thing to do, they did it as part of a sense of duty to them, to their families, communities, and their children. Like, I want to raise my kids right, so I'm either going to send them, make sure they go, or I'm going to take them. And it was a sense of duty sometimes, like, this is what makes a good, valued, moral family, is if I make sure my kids go to church. I'm gonna still have my drinks at home. I'm gonna smoke. Might even be doing dirt on the side, but gonna make sure that their kids are kind of wrapped in what they know to be right, and kind of hope that maybe their kids don't make some of the same young mistakes that they made, or have a good foundation in them. And it is no doubt that over the past few, thank you, Pastor Harrison, President Harrison, a blue-collar pastor works well in a blue-collar area, and that is true. And he said something earlier, and I want to go back. I do not want to pass over what he said. He said education level has a lot to do with it. Absolutely. And honestly, the church, just to get into the weeds, get a little wonky here, the church often operates at a higher, or it aspires to, at a higher level of professionalism and organization and administration than sometimes its own community. So in a blue collar community, which our area is, where we live in Northeast Ohio, we have a blue collar community, or have had it for the last 100 years or so, but all these churches are trying to be white collar.
Right.
and we're speaking a different language. We're trying to speak the clean English. We got all these administrative, all these titles, all these flow charts, all these ministries and things. And we don't often make it just basic enough, and we don't even speak basic language enough. We're often teaching high theology concepts. We went to college. We're trying to prove what we learned. Most cats don't care about that. They just want to know day-to-day practical living. And they want to hear sometimes what they already know to be true repeated back to them.
Oh, yeah.
Basic values of right and wrong. You don't have to try to amaze me with a bunch of deep, did you know that in ancient Israel, when a tree was pointed towards the north, we come up with all this crazy stuff, and they're like, dude, just espouse some good values and put God on it.
Use an analogy with Jim Brown, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Cars.
That's me.
Not the whole sermon about cars.
Right. Not the whole. Well, you know me. There will be a car analogy somewhere in there.
I like Scott's.
Scott's comment is good. Men desire order. If the church brings chaos, either in how the church functions or how the church affects their life, it's a hard pass. That's good. Men desire order. They do, because we're used to structure. Now, again, we're talking about a different culture now where there are some men who don't have that structure and order about themselves.
Absolutely.
So they might either be drawn to or play on the fact that the church can be a very disorderly place. And let's go back not just to how the church functions or affects their life, and we can talk about that in a minute, but also how the church worships. Because some churches just be doing too much for men to grasp.
Oh, my God. Oh, my. And I've learned, because I've been in a couple of those too much to grasp churches, but I've noticed that the men who regularly attended those services were men that didn't have fathers. They were men who were more on the emotional type men.
Because there's a brokenness there, there's a void there.
Right. And they want to fill that void. They want to fill that brokenness.
But men that come from a more structured environment, they work at a job that has one boss. Mm-hmm. They play for a team that has one coach. They vote for a guy who's going to be president. Then they go to some of our churches, like there's 9 prophets, 15 elders, everybody has a word, everybody's touching their neighbors. God knows who's going to come up to them on a random moment and lay hands on them, try to hug them and make them do all this stuff. And they're like, it's too much. It's almost like emotional overload. And we all, listen, I get it. Some cats will just be impressed that I got kind of excited and they like the passion I put into my preaching, but they're not really like into it, about to jump up on the pews with me.
Right.
Couple churchy guys gonna get into a good preaching preacher that love church and preach. The average guy, that's not their thing, but they might appreciate me for the effort I'm putting. They almost just like, good job, buddy. It's like running real fast to first base. you ran that out, buddy. Appreciate you. But
you're right, because the church I'm at has just all men. They just these brothers just like, after I'm done, I could have preached my tail off and ain't nobody move. But after they're like, great sermon, Pastor.
Sermon.
Great. I love how you use, and they'll repeat to me
they'll tell you what you said.
They'll tell you, but as far as getting up, clapping.
You're not doing all that.
You think, man, I ain't doing nothing.
They give you appreciation claps at the end. And what you said about order and disorder, to Scott's point, sometimes it brings chaos to the home because now you're in a tug of war of authority between the man of that house and the man in God's house. Mm-hmm. And, let's just say, let's back up to that man that is just like living their life, man. And their kid comes home and says, Daddy, preacher said you're not supposed to be drinking beer.
Right.
And kids don't know no better. They're like 7. They just hear what they hear and believe what they believe. And they come home and say, Daddy, you ain't supposed to be doing that.
The preacher said.
And the pastor and Daddy like, well, funny, another grandpa story. This is my wife's grandpa. He said, excuse the blank out of me. I thought this was my house. I'll never forget this. And this was a story that they was openly told. He told it. Grandmother told it. Aunts told it. My wife's aunts. The pastor in the city. Grandmother really into the church. All the girls back in the day, Holiness Pentecostal Church, have to wear skirts all the time. Preacher rode by the house and saw one of the daughters playing in the yard or something with pants on and had something to say.
Wow.
It was in that day. And in that day, this was not uncommon. In that day, it was not uncommon. It had something to say. Like, we taught you better than that. You ought to know better. And that's when the grandfather said, well, excuse the blank out of me. You know, I thought that this was my house. I buy my children's clothes. I tell them what's acceptable to wear and not acceptable to wear. And here you come trying to overrun. And there are some pastors who will do it as much as they can.
Oh, absolutely.
Try to run because they think that them is my members. That, Pastor, you're right on it, Doctor, Reverend, Doctor, President. I'm taking that. Pastor Jeff would say, keep my name out your mouth. I'm taking that. Don't take my name into your house. There have been so many sermons I preached. I said, do not go home telling your husband what Pastor said.
Please.
Do not go home telling your husband you need to get right. Or, especially if they're younger, you need to be more like my pastor, how he treats. Because just like you say, treat your wife and all that stuff, or good father, whatever, which I'm striving to be. Good father, good example. But somebody come in there, got a dude laying up at home, or a person with them, and they either are repeating what the pastor said to them and how they ought to be, or they're competing or comparing their man to the pastor.
That's preachable right there.
Listen,
competing or comparing.
That brother is never coming to my church, and if he does, he's coming with a weapon, and I'm gonna have to have some cats.
We've had too many of those in Warren. We don't
listen, we don't need no more.
We don't no more of those.
But men, and a part of it, I don't want to say we. Some people look at it as toxic. I look at it as that's a man who might not be where he needs to be, but something innate in him knows what role he's supposed to play, and he knows that some other man ain't supposed to be playing it.
At all.
He knows he's supposed to be the head, something in him, even if he's not living right, doing right, treating her right, or whatever, there's headship in men. Whether they unlock it, unpack it, utilize it, allow God to bring it, it's there. And it triggers something in them when they feel threatened that another man is running what is theirs, their family, their woman, their spouse. And by the way, black men especially have so little that is there. To have another man running the last little piece of what's yours. You know what I'm saying? You working under somebody's thumb at the job. Uncle Sam on your back, the police down your back. And here come another guy.
And I'm gonna be honest, that I think that's one of the reasons for me personally, marriage counseling, especially a married couple in the church, is so, to me, that's why I sent most of mine to Pierre and Karen.
Osborne, call the
Osbornes. It's just easier because somebody's gonna be right.
And when you fill out some guys and see how they feel about bringing another man, and half of the time they're getting dragged in, by a sister who wants to fix the marriage or whatever.
And they don't want to tell you their issues.
They don't want to
tell you their issues.
And by the way, and there are some skills we just don't have. And some others do have to relate to that man. And sometimes I realize that some people are beyond me. I mean, I had one cat. I mean, he was geared up, but he was getting so hot. There was nothing I knew in my toolbox to give him that would not set off, because in a way he was wrong, but strange Reverend preacher guy is not the guy to tell him he's wrong. I am not the one to tell you wrong, bro. You need another minister. You need a cat. I'm gonna call my man Hainsworth.
You need Vince Peterson.
I need Peterson or Hainsworth or one of my buff preacher friends.
Dela Cruz
that can fight. Right. We had Dela Cruz that'll cut you out and then pray for you. But Pastor said you ain't right, but you ain't wrong. But I want to unpack that dynamic a little bit more, because that idea of skepticism and the fact that another man is running and dominating and dictating their life is something that takes longer for men to accept and come to. But also they embrace repetition, as Scott said, order. And thank you, Jamie. There should be order in the church. Now I want to say something unapologetically to that. I have purposely, and I've actually had some people come to our church and say there's basically not enough spirit, not enough flow, not enough openness, not enough room for God to move, so to speak. But our church also has a high ratio of men who attend and participate. Some collectively very diligent, devoted, always count on them. Others on the periphery in a way where they're here but not really here, but they always know where to be and where they want to be and what and who they respect and what kind of worship service they would want to be in if they went to anyone. And we're one of those churches that a lot of men feel comfortable being in. And I've made a choice that I could either satisfy a whole lot of emotional women, which there's no shortage of churches doing that.
Absolutely.
Or I can create more balance in worship on purpose. I am a spirit-filled, Holy Ghost, Pentecostal kid. And though I'm in a Baptist church, if I wanted to bust up, and I'm not saying I'm scared of the members. I mean, I respect the members and the legacy history of the church. We are not, Second Baptist was not historically off-the-wall church. But we've progressed so much, but I've also chosen how to temper that progression. Right. Because there is a certain ministry we have to young adults and men that is pretty unique in our city. And I'm not talking about churchified young adults and men.
Right.
I am not talking about people that were raised playing tambourines and singing in choirs and, knew how to wear 3-piece suits and all that stuff. I'm talking about just around the way guys trying to be good men, trying to be faithful men in their whole lives, not just in church. And, I want to make sure they know, and they're almost like that one sheep for me. When you talk about leaving the 99 for the one sheep, to me, men and young adults are that one sheep. That's me. Like, I get that there's 99 that wish we did a whole lot other stuff. And there's some people that will leave our church because we don't. I've had people literally fall off of coming to church because we don't do as much extra. But I know who I'm reaching, and I want to answer Marlon's question to give you a chance. Right. Marlon asked the question, so how do you handle, I'm going to let Pastor Jeff handle this. How do you handle a woman that's your parishioner that comes to you about their husbands that aren't members?
Good question.
That's a good question. That's a real good question. I don't know if I've ever had it happen. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to go back, and I'm trying to think, what would I do? Their husband who aren't members. I don't think I've ever had it happen.
You haven't had it happen?
I don't think I've ever
not members, not believers, not really into Christianity at all, or maybe just not feeling coming to church. Let me say it like this. That's the first thing out of my mouth is I want to remind you that this man is not you. He's not a member of my church. He's not under my authority. He may not even be a Christian. He may not really espouse these beliefs or believe in the structure and you can't run into the church and the pastor for your problems. He don't think that way. Right. So I start there. I made a comment in the Bible study 2 weeks in a row. I've been talking about conflict and how the Bible says we ought to resolve things in Matthew 18. And Matthew 18 talks about if a brother or sister offends you, go to them, tell them your fault, I said, but this particular passage is speaking specifically between fellow believers. And we run into problems where we expect the same kind of approach and reconciliation from believer to non-believer. And we expect them to follow these Bible rules that they don't believe in.
They just don't.
I went to him. I'm like, yeah, but he's not you. She's not you. I said, so
he lived by a whole different code.
And would be offended with you trying to impose your code.
Absolutely.
And not only are you trying, because it's hard enough for, especially if a man is not a churchgoer, the wife is a churchgoer, he already knows that she lives by these codes and will often kind of come home. And we all know how women can be. Let's be honest. They want to kind of put themselves and what they believe in and what they on the man. Now, it's bad enough that the woman's coming home every week with all this spirituality and how things ought to be and da-da-da-da. Now you're going to bring somebody else into it to back you up and push on me and press on me and all that kind of stuff, another man. So that I try to remind them, number one, that no matter how it's approached or what they're willing to do, that we cannot expect him to be something that he's not at this stage in his life.
Right.
I can expect him to be something. He is not going to come in here and I say 3 words to him and quote a few scriptures. He cry crocodile tears or whatever, unless you're about to divorce him and he just trying anything to get you back. And we've had that too. We've had men literally.
Oh, they will switch the game up.
They will switch the game up.
They will switch the game up when you leave.
They will switch the game up when you leave and be in the church on the altar.
That is not us telling y'all to tell them y'all leaving.
But check this out. I've had this more in my dad's church. I don't think it's happened at second. I don't think I would let it happen at second. When the dude comes to church, wants to act all spiritual, then he asks the pastor if he can say something. And he wants to apologize or beg the woman back in front of the church. I've had this. He wants to beg the woman back. And he didn't do everything. He didn't shout and fell on the floor, let everybody pray for him. But he was only doing it because he knew that she was. And now, and here's the worst part, and this is not the show, but the mothers are like, take her back, baby. God can do it. And I'm like, run as fast as you can. And then the church is pressuring the woman to take her back. And I'm like, man, you about to beat her again. Like, it's about to be.
That's that right one back. Scene at the end of the My Dear movie when he walks down and
right with the cane. Like the human thrown in the pool.
Go get your man. This
is a real story. I wish we had video ministry back then. Brother came in, and this is why we don't let folks say stuff no more, because you don't know where they're going. But men, and let's switch gears to that. Men can manipulate faith, religion, and devotion to get what they want out of a woman and come to church just to make a woman happy. Now, I do preach it sometimes. If he can get you to go everywhere, why can't you get him to at least come to where you want to be and like to be? But on the same token, you don't want him to perpetuate something just to make you happy. Or quite frankly, a dude will take you to church just like he'll take you to Red Lobster.
Absolutely.
To get in your drawers.
It's a date.
It's a date to him.
It's a date. I've done this for you.
Right. I came here for you. Right. Listen, he gonna be pressing.
Owe me.
Right. He gonna be pressing on you.
Hey, the Bible says all have sinned.
We might as well do it now. I mean, but you're absolutely right. Dude will be pressing on a woman at 11 o'clock at night, talking about, I went to church for you. Give me what I want.
Right.
So, I mean, that's real. And we can see that too. We can see men who come to church just because
absolutely,
there are ladies in the church, you know, and so that, you know, what I want to kind of shift gears as we come to the end is what works and what do we need to be honest about? And I kind of want to talk about first thing we have to be honest about as a church. We have to be honest about the fact Red Lobster has better results. Brothers, if you have to choose between church and Red Lobster, go to Red Lobster.
It depends on the woman.
It depends on the woman? Well, let's be clear. There are some church women out there that if you wanted to get them, don't take them to Red Lobster. Take them to a musical.
Take them. That's it.
Take them to a revival. And the sad thing is, because church is an emotional place, boy, them emotions can turn into something real quick.
And go down there and let the pastor touch you and fall out.
Lord have mercy.
I'm telling you, boy, you fall out.
Lord have mercy. Okay, so let's be clear here. What is wrong with church, especially in the black church? I will say it. There are still too many images of rampant femininity in the church. And I'm not talking about...
I don't even think that those images are oftentimes true.
They're not
today.
But they're prevalent.
They're prevalent and they are perceived. They are perceived that every choir director is...
Don't go to Cheesecake Factory.
Every choir director is flaming. The guy on the tambourine.
I direct the choir sometimes. I'm good, man. I'm straight.
All that stuff.
Literally.
And it's just not. It's not the case.
And I know this is uncomfortable because we live in a day and age, and I'm grateful that we are far less, in most cases, toxic and problematic about any sexual identity issues. But let's be clear here. Let's be real clear here. The fact that it is still so often celebrated, those alternative lifestyles.
Absolutely.
That those manly, everyday men, again, thankfully we live in a far more progressive society where even men who are manly men, they're just to this point, to each his own. They're to that point. But there are still some displays that are over the top. And then they see the church celebrated in an over the top manner. They love the flamboyancy, the sisters of the church. You like that person. Man, we see this cat, you see these people do these over-the-top performances, whether it's singing, dancing, getting the spirit or whatever. And we're not like expecting anybody to tackle them or nothing like that. But after a while, the man who showed up to just come to church is like, come on, man.
Right.
Like, come on, man. Like, I mean, and you can call it hateful. You can call it bigoted. You can call it whatever you want. But after a while, and again, we live in an age of acceptance at all levels beyond what you ever have seen before. And I do hope it progresses in a healthy way that doesn't compromise our values and what we teach and preach. But man, if that guy who is flaming, and we're just being blunt here, and Young is religiously incorrect, but if that flaming guy can jump up and make a show every single Sunday, and everybody jumps up when he jumps up, but nobody barely speaks to that regular dude that just came to church and sat there, and they act like he don't exist and he's good for nothing because he doesn't sing, preach, or play an instrument. Because that's basically what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
And men don't come to church to be performers. There are a few of us who have that kind of churchy vibe to us to want to get into it. And then others just want to be a part, and they'll join the male chorus and just kind of clap along and try to sing. Right. But they're not about to cut a step. They're not about to grab a tambourine. They're not about to be, oh, Lord, doing all this stuff.
That's the thing, Pastor Todd. To have ministries that caters to
femininity.
The regular man.
The regular man.
The regular man. I mean, the male usher board. The male chorus. You know, the quartet, whatever they call them. You know what I mean? I mean, that kind of, the security team.
Right.
Brothers love to be on.
Oh man, listen.
Give him a security shirt.
Right.
What?
You can't tell him nothing. Give him one of them fake earpieces to nowhere that just goes down his neck.
Like he's looking important.
Right. Give one of them fake earpieces. He's talking to nobody. He's like, I got Pastor Secure. He's in the office now. He's coming out. But on the same token, they look at these things within reasonableness. Now, the same guy that would be glad to be on a security team is going to roll his eyes at the preacher with 8 members and 5 armor bearers. You know what I mean? The same guy that would appreciate helping to protect the church would roll his eyes at the fact that 7 guys got to stand around in front of the pulpit every time the pastor preaches, like somebody going to run up there and do something. Wow. You know what I mean? So they have this balance. They have this sensibility. And I think that what we don't do is pay any attention to the sensibilities of men. And I think we try. But that's a part of what we do wrong. Here's the other thing is we don't often value what men value. They value their time.
Absolutely.
They value their gifts and talents and their functions. Like you say, we don't ask them to do things that they could do. We ask them to do things that we want them to do.
Absolutely.
We want a bigger choir. We want more deacons on the front row. We want more well-dressed people on the front pew. We want people who can pray good and all that stuff. And the man might want to be like, I'm no good praying, but I'm real good with a circular saw.
Absolutely.
I could build you a whole shed if the church needs one. And I've had guys like that, like, don't ask me to speak. Don't ask me to do anything. But if you need me for something, Pastor, and sometimes I've been in church all my life and I got one of the best dads, balanced dads ever. I still don't know how to ask men often to do everyday things. We often lean on the same couple of cats, or I just do it myself. And the guy like, I could have took care of that for you, man. I could have moved them tables or put that together. Y'all got that package in and you needed that shelf put together. And why didn't you call me and ask, because I still don't know how to engage that well enough.
So I was talking to a young man the other day and, just asking him, what does he do to church? He says, I cut grass. And I go to Bible study. I cut grass, and I come to church. I made the pulpit.
Wow.
And I come to church. That was his.
That was his thing.
That was his thing.
That was his thing.
And we have to find out what is their thing.
What is your thing?
What is your thing? If you just want to come and let's stop pretending like it's not okay for them just to come.
Thank you.
It's okay. Just show up.
Thank you.
I'm happy
Say
you're
that
here.
again. Say it again, Pastor Jeff. It's okay just to come.
Yeah.
It's okay. You don't have to be Superman in church. And again, and being called out as soon as you start coming or when you join the church. Now we calling your name I think. And it's funny if it's good natured. If it's good natured and you got a rapport.
I've been through so many classes and so many conferences where they say you got to shut the back door on ministry, and the way to shut the back door is get the people involved. But if they don't want to get involved and they just want to show up, that's from, like Pastor Harrison said, having a relationship.
Correct.
And just sitting down and talking to these people. Man, I'm good just coming right now. Cool. Thanks, man.
Now, is that because we don't have a lot of men in most of the churches, so when a man does come in,
we don't know what to do with him.
We just kind of
we go crazy.
Yeah. And again, it can be different, but a lot of men don't want all that attention. Some do, Let's be clear here. There's a lot of drama kings out there. There's drama queens and drama kings out there. And they do want the attention. Some guys who become a part of a church, like Big Mike just said, they realize they are the only man. And they, or one of the few. And they take that to the head.
Right. And
start to throw their weight around. Or whatever, or love being the celebrated guy that can do everything for everybody, drive the people to the on the bus to the church services and all that kind of stuff, and it gets a little over the top. But a lot of guys, and I made a mistake one time in my preaching days, and I never forget. It was early second, and just an everyday dude coming to church with his wife, and I did one of them down the aisle things, and I think I was shaking hands, high fiving while I'm preaching. I'm getting into it, and I kind of grabbed him and wanted him to stand up, and he's like, "I'm not standing up." I'm like, I'm doing all this stuff. And he's like, bruh, you know what I mean? And I wasn't, you know what I mean? And I realized it in the moment, like, I done messed up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, like, this is not the one for this.
I shouldn't have done that.
I should have stayed, should not have done that. I should have stayed in the front where the few hollering deacons and ministers and people get into the service. And I have to start reading people better and recognize that, again, they might appreciate my passion, but they don't want to be a part of my performance. They did not ask to be a part of my sermon. Does that make sense, y'all?
Oh, yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
They appreciate my passion. They really do. They're like, man, I'm glad to see a young man that loves the Lord. I love how you get into it. They'll say, I love how you get into it. I love how you get excited. Boy, you go, boy. You know, they'll say something like that. I go like Gina from Martin, but they'll be like, man, you be going, man. You just go and go, man. I love to see it. But they're not about to, like you said, do all of that stuff. I can invite them to the front. I'm going to pray for the men today. It'd be better off if I didn't come down there and start trying to lay hands on people and pour oil on folks' heads. Right. I'm sorry, y'all. That's just me. That's just me. And some people, again, have a problem with that. They want me to anoint their husbands. They want me to do all this stuff. And that brother would appreciate a nice prayer.
Right.
And be filled up. Because we seen the memes on Facebook. Where it'd be like an empty apartment with like a TV and a couch. And they'd be like, this is all the man needs. Or like just a chair and a TV. A couch, and a pizza or something, like literally on the floor, which is how I moved into my first house by myself. Literally a TV, a carpeted floor, and maybe a microwave. And I was happy. You know what I'm saying? We really don't believe that style and approach to ministry can be fulfilling for men because we're so used to sisters needing and expecting so much more. Right. And even the sisters who are spirit-filled don't accept that men are processing this differently, but just as significantly. That I did not have to give you my emotional display of tears to have been touched on the inside by what was said or what was sung or even the prayer that was prayed. And I think that one of the things we can do better as a church is accept where people are at. Right. We keep saying there's a difference between men and women and all this kind of stuff, but then we keep trying to turn men into women. In the church.
It takes us, because we don't know if you fake or real a lot of times. You know what I mean? I know you talked about the guys who coming off the streets, but some of these guys coming in, they got to watch for a couple weeks.
Absolutely.
They got to sit there. They got to process this.
You suspect from jump.
Oh,
you suspect.
Right. Yeah, you suspect.
The church, let's be clear. Churches and preachers are all suspect.
Suspect from jump, yeah.
Churches and preachers are suspect. I next time I talk to my ministers, I mean, that's one of the things I want to bring up is like, you do understand that we are coming and approaching people, especially men and the general public at large, from a position of skepticism. What is this all about for real?
Right.
Doc, 2 weeks ago, we had a couple join, and went and talked to the guy and, talked to him and, say, hey, he's like, man, I like that car out there you drive. In my mind, you know what I'm saying? Because I drive, my first thing is, bro, I didn't get that from the church. I gotta justify.
You almost feel
you gotta justify.
You ready to give that defense?
I work two jobs. I work 3 jobs. I do this. I do that. I want to tell all because I don't want them to think. You know what I'm saying? I'm robbing the church of their money. Right. You know what I mean?
And it's almost become for those of us who care to recognize this, and if it is our approach, everybody is not our approach, but we almost feel like we want to let the men know from the jump, I'm not one of them pastors.
Right. Exactly.
I want you to know from the jump. And I don't feel guilty. Like I used to feel guilty, like, am I putting on too much? But I'm like, you know what? Old dude used to put on too much over how over spiritual he was, or how, some people put on. If I'm going to put on anything, I'm going to try to put on relatability and relevance and down to earthness. Right. And if that's a little too loose or jokey for the super saints of the world, I understand it. But at the same time, I'm not seeing that other approach effectively reaching, again, my little bread and butter that I'm focused on, men and young adults. The flip side of that is then the people who you thought were strong act like they're being neglected if you actually focus on what we were always praying for.
Right.
Like the people who are supposed to be strong, the spiritual people, the intercessory type people, the people that love to worship, I'm like, I read it earlier. Sister Elder Carter and Sister Osborne saying, I bring my own spirit with me. And I'm kind of like, while we're focusing on and making sure that the men feel comfortable and the youth feel, keep bringing your spirit with you.
Come on.
Do what you were doing. But stop looking for me to put all my focus on you. And I used to clap you up and shout you up. And as soon as you got happy, I would jump onto your fire. Keep your fire right where you're at, while I am still establishing balance and pragmatism to the ministry for someone who is never going to be, or at least not right now, where you are at. And I think that's a maturity that we have to get to. A high praise does not mean God has moved, and for some reason men know that, but most of us don't. Men know that it doesn't always mean God is moving. Sometimes God moves quietly and they walk out, and I just thought, no, I'm gonna keep hooping and carrying on. I'm gonna do what I do. But I also remember to myself that the first 15 minutes of this sermon are going to be the most important, especially for men. So I need to make sure I make my points there, and then I can tune up and do whatever I want, and don't stay there too long, And so I think that there's value to it. Anything else you've seen people do?
I just want to tell you,
go ahead.
That's something that, it took a long time for me to learn, and I learned it from you. Just that first 15 minutes of the sermon, you know me as more than many. I started off on 20.
Oh, Jeff has started off 1,000 miles.
I started off on
NASCAR.
20.
He's a NASCAR preacher.
I ended on 25.
You did on 20?
And so
that's why he's a Browns fan, because he ended up barking.
But I watched you and I'm like, okay, this cat. And for me, when I first got to, I'm like, this cat is dragging his first 15
terrible.
minutes.
Right.
All right, dude. I know you're going to get high. Because I knew at the end you were going to go there. Somewhere. You know what I mean? But I had to learn that, that, like you said, that first 15 minutes is extremely important, especially people who aren't impressed by all your emotionalism.
And I would say that men who don't do church in a very super devoted way or super excitable way, they are the proof text, if you will, or the ultimate example of the general public that doesn't really do church. You can take the temperature of the general public that doesn't do church from men who sit back in your church.
Right.
You can take if it works with the men who kind of just sit back and just show up, if it works and resonates with them, there's a good chance it'll resonate with other populations who are cool on church, skeptical about religion, have heard too many, scandals or whatever, and want to see something different. And if we took our cues from the men that are coming to our church, and sometimes even if it is only a few for some of our churches, it is only a few, but if you would take your cues from them, they could show you how to reach more. And now you could be a little replicable. And Mike, you can just give me, because I want to brag on my church a little bit, because we do pretty well with the men. When you came to church, what was your impression of the men that go to our church for the most part? What would you say?
Oh, I was totally impressed. I like the way the deacons interact, how they sit up front, and they're that example. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was just real impressed with the men. And then since I've been going there for the past almost year, I'm even more impressed because I see what they do. I see how they help. Mm-hmm. Now you have some that are just there that just come, and that's cool.
Right.
And that's cool. And then you have other ones who actually take part.
Right.
And do things. So,
right.
Yeah.
And that's a model that I want to expand and expound on. And I've noticed that these men came because some man invited them, and they saw a man working, serving, or at least just showing up and appreciating, and again, normalizing our spirituality as a part of our lives. I think can be helpful to our men. And we're coming to the end, and I want to hear from you guys. If there are any things that you look for, or men you know, even if you're a female, that you look for in a church that you know would be particularly attractive to men. And one thing I'll say is we could all stand to be a little bit more intentional. So with this tailgate we did today, and we've talked about this wing thing, I can see myself very soon doing something again and basically doing the restaurant thing, or just setting up a TV somewhere in a comfortable space. Now, let's be clear here. Unfortunately, churches, especially black churches, don't have a lot of comfortable spaces. And so we have to find ways to create that.
And let's just also be clear that regardless if you got a TV in there or not, it's still a church.
It's
and
still
some
a church.
men still don't want to
They
just don't want to be associated at this moment
so we have to be
with the church.
And they feel guilty about stuff. Like they can watch the game with you and feel led to cuss. You know what I mean? And feel like they gotta hinder more than they would have. They already are around a group of spiritual people, so they're trying to mind their manners or whatever. But now you in a building where you feel like it's gonna cave in if you say something, or you think something, or when them plays was going bad. Listen, when things were going bad today, for some of our guys, I could feel some words about to be said. The other thing is when we go out in places like, you draw a line. Let's say you go out, Pastor Jeff, you invite men, tell your band to invite a man, y'all go out to BW3s or whatever, and somebody orders a beer.
You have to be okay.
Has the church sanctioned the beer? Should you be correcting it? Should we be telling?
Listen, when I had my
listen, Mo, people feel led to cuss all the time. It ain't the Holy Spirit, but it's some kind of spirit.
When I had my marriage. My wife is the Bond Marriage Ministry.
Okay.
And, we would have
outings. You'd have outings.
We have outings.
Yeah.
I mean, and it grew, it got big. I mean, we would have like 10, 12 couples coming out. We go to locked rooms with escape rooms.
Right.
We go out to eat. We go to movies and things. But when they came, if you invite your husband out who never comes, and they were free to say, I'm just going to go out. And the truth of the matter is, most men are respectful of our position.
A lot of men are.
They are pretty much respect. They're not going to try to smoke. If they smoke, they're going to go outside and smoke.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, hey, I'm going to have a beer. You cool with that?
They will ask you. That's correct.
Cool.
Hey, I was ready for a cold one after I ate and was watching the game.
He was looking around for his mom to see if she had slipped in the back. He was like, this is a non-alcoholic function. He says, so no communion drink of BW3s. All I'm saying is I won't judge you, but I think sometimes we're so fearful because the belief becomes, well, you enabled or even encouraged by not setting a standard, especially if they've already started coming to church, they gave their life to Christ or whatever. Now, people have different doctrinal beliefs about things. Right. Our primary issue is with drunkenness, right. Even though our actual hey mama, she been lurking the whole time waiting for you to say something.
Being nice. I'm just being honest.
But there is a fine line, and I think that's where the pastor and the men of the church, they have to be, number one, building relation. But also because people respect order, sometimes there is just some, we don't do that here. Right. Or we're not going to do that here. Or this ain't that kind of fellowship. And you just make it known, hey, either respect it or you don't. And if somebody says, well, if I can't have a beer, I ain't coming, like, hey, cool, hey, maybe they can come to the next one. Right. But we just won't for sake of our Christian witness. But I think you just need to be open and upfront about it on the front end, as opposed to being judgmental and corrective on the back end.
That's it. Right. That's it.
Because that's what we would do. If we were real strict about ourselves and we go out, we be like, yo, no, we ain't ordering nothing. What you doing, bro? Where we could have just said, hey, bros, we're going to go out, but I want you to do me a favor. This one is going to be a dry fellowship. Right. We're going to do soft drinks. We're going to do water. I'm not here to judge what you do in your own time. But because we're going out as the men of Second Baptist to XYZ restaurant and we're all in public, I relate to you. I love you. I'm not here to try to beat you down into nothing. But while we're together, I would like us to not do that. If you could respect that. And if somebody just can't hold it in, I mean, they need deliverance or something. I mean,
and that's what I was gonna say. If you got 20 guys, there are 19 of them ain't drinking, and one like, I gotta have a beer. Bro, we need to
go back to the church.
Back
to the altar.
Here. Yeah.
But I've always said, and it's not a show about drinking, but I've always said, like, you know, you can say you're not really addicted or you're not a drunk or nothing like that. I said, but even socially, if you feel like you cannot go out and have a good time without it, then maybe you're a social drunk. And again, that's where men come in. Be real about it. Right. Be real about it and tell them, like, bruh, you know, some of us have our little, but if you can't even go out for 2 hours and you know, that whole nother discussion. But again, men being able to relate, saying I have been, or they can say I am, and I'm still on a journey myself, can make all the difference.
I went and picked my brother up the other day, picked him up, and you know my brother, and we rolled down the street. And he's like, hey, take me back home real quick. I'm like, just picked you up. So I took him back home.
He had to drop something off.
He had to drop the stuff off. He's like, I didn't feel comfortable
being in your car.
I mean, I appreciate that.
He saved you a charge, Doc.
Right. But I mean, I just
think. It ain't legal yet.
It ain't legal yet.
I think most men are just, you know, they somewhat respect us enough.
Yeah. And the challenge I often give to my men is you come up with something.
Right.
If y'all want to go bowling, just say so. Like, just say something. And it's not that difficult. That's the other thing about men. This ain't nothing but a phone call and a date and a time and a place. We don't need flyers.
Nothing.
Like, you're wasting your time if you think flyers going to get a bunch of men to show up to something. Even when we have done like the male thing we did last February with the men getting together, it really wasn't the flyer on Facebook that got men to show up. It was just men talking to men and saying, hey, we're going to be at Packard Shelter House. Next thing you know, you got 140 men in one room. So I think that pastors have to understand that men might not be in this, there we go. Can the next event have beef hot dogs? Okay, first of all, I'm sure our bean counter already did the margins, the profit margins on our hot dogs, and she decided that them junk dogs were good enough.
But you want vegan tacos too?
Right, vegan tacos. But that brotherhood, we have a brotherhood fellowship at the church. It's a breakfast, you know, and we come because we just want to be around each other.
Right.
You know, and so I want to see that continue. So
and let's just listen, when we get together, we are still competitive. We still have a good.
Correct.
I mean, we have been played basketball. I'm pretty sure I
Jeff
won.
pulled some hammies.
We get competitive and we have fun. Bowling, it's for bragging rights and it's fun. You know, we have to have fun. Brothers still do that, man. So you know, don't be afraid not to come because we ain't. You think we all uptight and, you know, super holy.
Right.
It's Sister Rose.
See, Rose is there. She's lurking too. She was waiting. Now I know to say something every episode to pull them out. She said she was looking at them dollars. And I can count on the bean counter knowing exactly, okay, we'll make 75 cents on every hot dog we sell. But I love it. But no, you know, I challenge every church to be, you know, if you haven't been able to reach men and haven't seen a healthy group of men, it's something you need to change, not the men.
Right.
But what I would say to men is, to my brothers and sisters, if there are good examples and models around you and good people and relatable people, give them a chance. You know, give them a chance. It might not be our church, might be some other church. Give them a chance. You never know how helpful and uplifting, and I've watched it already in our churches. So, brothers,
and I would just say, I know some of y'all think y'all real spiritual and y'all real. The Holy Ghost is leading you, but stop trying to push them brothers down. They ain't coming back.
Don't push them brothers down.
They ain't coming back.
Don't push them brothers down.
They ain't coming
They're going to end up tackling you, Doc. You're going to be
might get suckered.
You might get sucker punched real quick and deserve it, by the way. Don't come to my church with that and deserve it. So, hey, we love you all. I think it was a good episode. How you feel, Mike? We did all right? We did okay?
Oh, yeah. Real good episode. And, you know, with the subject we're talking about, I just want to let you guys know I had a lot of fun today.
Okay.
That was cool.
I'm glad to hear it.
Just being around the fellas, being around the Saints, watching football, eating, having a good time, talking. Yeah, it was good.
Right.
Had a good time.
Right. We all need more of that. And again, more pared down, stripped down stuff. It ain't got to be a blowout out of gymnasium.
Right.
It could just be a kick it with some fellas. So,
Absolutely.
man, we love you guys. We appreciate you watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for commenting and joking and giving all the cracks, man. Let's continue to share the religiously incorrect vibe worldwide. Follow us, follow us, like us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Y'all always missing y'all co-host Mo, but good show nonetheless.
Next week, Mo. Next week, we got you.
Are we bringing Mo in?
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna bring Mo in. Let her shine a little bit. And we're gonna let her shine with that debutante dress. She had that shining.
I didn't see.
You didn't see the silver?
No, I didn't see.
All the ladies look very nice. But I was getting on her about the dress. Don't tell them what I said, though, Mo. We're going to log off before you can catch up and say it. But, hey, we appreciate y'all. Be sure to like us, share us. Our audio podcast will be up on all streaming platforms very, very soon. And let's continue. Hey, you got some subjects y'all want us to touch? We'll have to get Marlon up in here, too. If you got some subjects y'all want us to touch on in 2024, 2024 is almost here, hit us up. We would love to tackle some things that we feel like we haven't hit up. And, hey, we'll be a little controversial. We're good. We're good with it.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, bring it.
Bring it. Until next time, y'all. See y'all at Sunday night service. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Eat lots of turkey. Enjoy your families. Watch some football. And God bless you all.
Peace.